Okay, and now what I'm going to do is give a center stage for. Got to figure out again. They keep changing this dang thing. Okay, that's me. Spotlight for everybody, so you can see me, and I can't see you. But that's okay. So I'll do a little adjustment here so you can see the slide. Because I can't, when you do this, oh, wait a minute now, maybe I gotta take it off spotlight. Speaker view off, that's probably what it's gonna do. Maybe not. This drives me nuts with this interface. Speaker view off. Come on, go away. Why do you go away? Can't get it to go off speaker view. Let's do this. Take it off spotlight. Okay. Come, go away, speaker view. Why? Okay, now we'll try it this way. There we go. That took it apart now. Okay, so this fly first is a nymph fly that you're going to fish right on the bottom in a stream primarily. And when I pick patterns for this week, I've been busy this week and trying to struggle to figure out what pattern to do. I decided to do ones that involved this stuff that is called edge bright or laser wrap. And it's a translucent material here that has a bit of a glow to it. And you can see that the edge of it captures the light and it shows up brighter on the edges than it does through the middle.
No, thanks, honey.
And I've got different colors. So I've done one pattern with a couple of the colors that might be useful. So this pattern is a primarily a stream pattern, and it's fished on the bottom as a nymph. And as Florence said earlier in the chat, that with this particular pattern in Alberta, we fish it as part of a two-fly rig, where you have this as the heavy fly that fits right on the bottom of the stream. And then you tie either off the bend or you tie this off a dropper. And you tie a little midge pattern or something smaller off the end of it. And so the weight of this pattern gets it to the bottom. The fish do take it off the bottom, but also you have that other little attractor pattern that's quite small that the fish will take it off the second one. And the usual drill is you have a fairly long leader with a strike indicator upstream of the fly, and you flip the fly upstream, get your rod up so that the leader is off, your tippet is off the water, your fly line's off the water, and you let the strike indicator float through the zone or wherever you think the fish is. This would work on the cowichan, and you just let it. You can usually see where it's bouncing along the bottom, and the fish will pick it up. Usually, almost when it's dead, drifts straight across from you, but quite often they'll pick it up as the pattern comes up off the bottom as you let the line drift down, and it brings the fly up off the bottom. and they'll pick it up there because it looks like a rising insect. And the other place they'll take it is we'd let it sit down and sit in the eddy below your leg where you're standing in the stream. And sometimes they'll take it right when it gets to the surface, right at the end of that drift. So that's typically the way we would fish it. So you need a reasonably sized hook. Most of the time, we'd be fishing this for whitefish and Arctic grayling. So this is a hook, standard TMC dry fly hook, and I tie these in 6 and 8 for that particular fishery. It's got a slight curve to it. And the other thing you do, you need some weight, so you need a bead. And you can use tungsten or best. I didn't have any in my box right here, so I'm using a brass bead, but it gives you the general idea. Tungsten works because it's a little heftier. So just put the bead on. And for those of you who don't have one, if you tie beaded flies, what you need is a pair of these. These have they're little pair of tweezers that have little holes in the end. And what it allows you to do is to capture the bead in the pliers and then thread the hook on. They're really handy, particularly if you have a bunch of beads rolling around on your table. So the primary component of this fly is this stuff here, which is called edge bright or laser wrap. And where did the little beads go? Okay, I'm going to have to show you. Cut one here, I guess, because I'm missing. There it is. Nope. Where'd it go? I thought I had already had a piece cut. Oh well, we'll do it quickly here. I'll get it out of the bag.
That stuff can be a pain at times because it sticks to the
It
bags.
sticks to the bag. Yes, it does. It's got some static cling, I guess you could call it. Comes out of the bag. It's got a fair whack in one long piece there. So what I do is I take it and set it on the table here, and I've got a straight edge, and I just lay it down on. You can't see this, but I'll lay it down here where I can see it, and I'll lay it a very thin strip, and I want it maybe 1/8 of an inch ish wide. And then what I'm going to do is out of this, I'm going to take a razor blade somewhere here. I have.
Dave, you can buy it now pre-cut.
You can. Well, I'm old school. Razor blade, and I lay it down so I get it nice and the ruler nice and straight, so I get a nice straight cut, and then I just run the razor blade down the ruler. Yeah.
So Dave, you don't taper yours. You cut
No,
it.
yeah,
straight.
no, because you'll get more than one fly out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unless you like throwing stuff away. So that's him. So I got my laser wrap ready, which just fell on the floor. Okay, and then for a tail, I'm just going to use some crystal flash.
Mhm.
It just gives a little sprig of a tail, and it doesn't take up much space. So for this pattern, I'm going to use black ADOT. I'll wrap in behind the bead a few wraps just to keep the bead in place so it doesn't slide down the hook shank when I'm trying to wrap. And then I'll just open spiral down to the bend where the barb would have been if it was a barbed hook, but this is actually a barbed hook. And then at the tag end, see if there's a light. I'll take a short piece of crystal flash and a few strands. That's probably plenty. It's maybe a little more than half a dozen. And I'm going to take a chunk that's about 2 times the length of the hook. And I'll wrap back up my hook shank. And I'm going to tie it in right behind the bead, or a little bit behind the bead at the front, and just open spiral the thread down. What this does is it gives a little bit of a body underneath and a little bit of shine to the hook. And when I get down to the bend, I'll lift the tail up and wrap a couple of times in behind the tail so that it stands up a bit from the hook shank. And what that does is that keeps it from being wrapped around the hook shank when you get it set up here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut about gap width behind the hook. I'm going to cut the excess. So all you end up with is a little spray of crystal flash at the back. And I'm not sure why that does it, but it does seem to do something. I'm going to take my little piece of laser wrap, which I actually found the one I pre-cut. And I'm going to just take the end of it and I'm going to cut an angle at the end. Oh, you can't see it there. Cut an angle at the end. So, and the purpose of that is I want that little bit angles because I don't want a really bulky spot where I'm tying it in at the back. So the point is to have a little angled point on the end of the flash. And I tie that with the point facing up, just right where I've got the crystal flash tied at the back of the hook. And the reason for that is that point prevents having a big bulky bump at the back of the fly. And then when you do the first wrap of crystal flash up the hook shank, it wraps around the tail rather than squishing it down. Now I wrap this with an overlap so that about a third of the width of the laser wrap, just covering over about a third of each wrap. And what
Are
that
you
does,
stretching?
yeah, no, not touching, overwrap over
No,
itself.
stretching. Are you stretching it at all?
Not really, just enough to get it tight.
Yeah.
And what that does is that causes the laser wrap to create a rib with that bright edge. That's why it's called edge bright. Nice and even up the hook shank. Then when I get right to where the bead is, I'll hold up, and then this time I'm going to pull it up just a little bit to stretch it so that when I tie it down, again, I'm not going to have a great big bulky spot. And then I'll pull again on it as I cut it off. And I'll tie down whatever little bit of laser wrap sticks. And the last thing I need for this fly is my peacock curl. And really all I need here is a couple of strands of peacock curl. And I will just trim the soft ends off the tips and tie it in right behind the bead and wrap back just about a bead width with my thread. And then I'll wrap my peacocker around right between the bead and where I finished off with the laser wrap. And I'll make a little bit of a bulky peacocker thorax here. It's about the size, maybe a little bit more in diameter than the bead. And then I will trim off the excess peacock curl and use my whip finish here to finish the fly off. Right behind the bead. And the fly is done.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things to remember when you're tying this fly on the end of your fly line is you should use a non-slip loop to tie that to the end of your tippet. That causes the fly to wiggle a little more. If it's directly tied to the eye of the fly, it will stiffen its movement a little bit. So I tie these with a non-slip loop. So that's a laser wrap nymph. And as I say, I had a couple that are tied on a smaller hook and a little shorter. This is a little longer version. So that's fly number one. I can put my razor blade away because I have already pre-cut the one for the next fly. Okay, the next fly. Now, as I said in my email that went out, I wasn't sure who gave me a sample of this fly. It may have been Dennis. And this is this is a fly for chum. So, and it uses the laser wrap for the back of the fly. So I have pink for this one, fluorescent pink. That's the body of the fly, back of the fly. I'm gonna put this on here so you can see what it looks like when we're done. So, Dennis, is this one that you have used? I don't.
Dennis has stepped away.
Ah, there you go. Okay, so it's an interesting pattern. Again, it's just an attractor. The original pattern that I borrowed from somebody's box, it used like a hackle for the tail, but I didn't have a little bit of fine hackle, so I'm using basically a marabou plume to produce the tail. The hook is this is a firehole hook, but this is a size 6 heavyweight hook, moderate shank, to provide some strength for dealing with chum. And I have, I have some nice pink marabou for the tail. And I only need a little bit of a plume. So this is hot pink marabou. You can use a small hackle if you like. It's a little stiffer. The hook is this firehole. It's barbless, so you don't need to debarb your hook. It's already done. Doesn't made with a barb. Okay. And For this, I'm going to use red thread because the pattern has a red head. The underlying body, it's a comp from the original pattern. It looks like it was a multicolored or a rainbow colored flash material. But what I have is this Flashaboo Mirage pattern, which has a range of colors to it, depending on how the light shows on it. And it's a little stiffer than what I saw in the original Fly, but it does the same thing. The idea is to give the hook shank a really nice shine to it, so it has a variegated shine. So that's going to be the body of the Fly. And to do that, I'll take it out. And I will take a number of strands out of the package, probably more than half a dozen, maybe a dozen strands, kind of like that much. And I'm going to cut it because it's a fairly long material. I'm going to cut it long. And turn it off. I'll just set that down on the workbench for a minute because I have another thing to do. I need to get the tail on first. So I'll start with the thread behind the eye, and I will wrap down just to give a little bit of material because this body material is a little slippery. And if I have a bit of thread underneath it, it won't slide around when I'm tying the body. Come back to the back and trim that off. Take my marabou tail and just get a clump that gives it a bit of bulk. Now this is going to go skinny when it's wet. So I make sure that I have a bit of bulk to it. And I'll tie that on right where the barb would have been if it had been a barbed hook, but it's not. Do a pinch wrap on top. Give a couple of good wraps to cinch it down. And then just make sure that the top front end of that and the stem of the Meredith broom is tied in. And once again with this, I'm going to come back, lift it up, and tie around behind it a couple of wraps, just so that it doesn't wrap around the hook, fall off the shank. And that might be a little long. So I'm just going to make sure it doesn't extend more than a gap length behind it. There we go. It's a little bushier. I'm going to take the crystal flash material, this Mirage flash material. I'm going to tie that in right at the back. I'll just do a loose wrap and then pull it back so just a few bits stick out the front and tie them down rather than trying to trim them. And right behind that, I'm going to take my piece of pink Flashaboo, and I'm going to tie that in right behind the flash. That material. And I got it pointed back and to the far side of the hook. Now I'll bring my silver stuff back to where I got everything tied where the tail is. Wrap my thread forward, out of the way. Then what I do is I take the flash, the Mirage flash, and I twist it with my fingers into a long skein of silvered twisted material.
Oh, so you twist it into a rope.
Yeah, into a rope. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie just do a half hitch at the front with my thread so that I can rest the bobbin rest in front like that. And because this is all wound up, now I can take my rotary vise, go right to the back. I'm going to keep this out of the way with my material clip. And then I will build an underbody with this twisted flash. And the whole idea is to give it twisted enough that you give us some sparkle to the body underneath. And you wrap it, not touching terms, maybe the auto will wrap, so you get sort of double hook shank thickness all the way up. And so all the way forward to just about an eye width behind the eye. At that point, I hold it up and tie it down. A couple of 3 wraps behind to make sure that stuff isn't going to unravel. A couple of wraps in front and trim it off. So that gives you a nice shiny body. And again, if you had a little, if you wanted to color it a little better, you could probably use a different color of the Mirage Flash. Then I bring forward from there, I take this laser wrap and I'll put it forward right on top of all of that shiny material. And I'll give it a little stretch forward so that I can tie this down good and snug with the laser wrap sitting right on top of this material. And when I get that done, I tight enough wrapper 3 that it's not going, I'll pull up on the laser wrap and trim it off. That way you don't end up with a big stub of laser wrap right at the front. And tie that down at the start of the head with it. And this little bit of ramp I'm building here is just to make sure that that laser wrap stays in place. And it's going to give me a spot to put the next little item, which is, I'm going to give it some wings. And the wings is just yellow fly line backing. So I'm going to take a length of that. And I tie it so that the fly line backing, at least at this point, extends past where the tail is. And I will do a wrap on the near side, tie it down, and then I'll hold it back and do it one on the far side of the hook. So I have one now on either side of the hook shank. And I will tie this down good and snug. Do the same thing as I did with the tail. I can lift these up and wrap in behind a couple of times to make them stand up a little bit. And then I'll build a head. A nice tapered head in the front. And having a little trouble in my vision the last day or so. I was in to see the ophthalmologist yesterday, and I have been diagnosed with glaucoma in both eyes. So I've had to put drops in. It's making it a little more difficult to see fine detail today. Now I just need my lip finisher. And we will finish off the fly. Oh, come on. Let's see, my eyes aren't working as well as they should today. There we go. Now I can see it. And finishing off. Trim the thread. And then I don't want these to extend past the tail. So I'm just going to take my scissors and just cut them off, just kind of even up where the tail is. So they're the same length. And that's it. Oh, not the same length. There you go.
Couple of questions, Dave.
Yeah,
Is that backing material UV reflective?
I have no idea.
And number two, do you ever fray the ends of it?
It naturally will because it's not woven.
Okay.
So I think as you fish that fly, it's gonna fuzz out on the ends. Anyway, it's just fly line backing, real fly line backing, and it's just it's stiff enough that it stands off from the body of the fly, but it's loose enough that as you strip it, it's going to have some movement to it. And that's it for this week. So just thought I'd, use some different material that's not a material that everybody uses every day, which is the Edge Brighter laser wrap, it is called. It has certain glow to it that I think works pretty well. But certainly the nymph, I've caught lots and lots of grayling, Arctic grayling, and other fish on that off the bottom. Particularly, we used to fish the Red Deer River downstream of the Dixon Dam, and fish for Rocky Mountain whitefish there, and it was a very productive pattern there. And I've used it on the crow's nest as well. So I think any river which has a reasonably rocky bottom, these things bounce along pretty good. So that's it. I will get my spotlight off here. Gosh,
So Dave, you don't do any wide open wraps of thread over the edge bright to give it sort of segmentation? You just
no, it's just a straight, just over the back.
Okay.
Yeah. And remove spotlight. There we go. So now back to gallery there. So I've got boxes of full of these ones with the orange because I used that a lot when we were fishing for grayling and Rockies. I've caught some big Rocky Mountain whitefish on that orange pattern. Although that fishery changed quite a bit. There was a big flood probably 15 years ago. They had a hell of a pile of rainfall, so they opened the dam up, the spillway up, and it kind of scoured out one of the best areas where we used to fish for those guys. There was a set of big rocks on the bottom, and we would fish the channels in between the rocks with those patterns. And it was a lot of fun. But I think the change in river after the big flood, the fish are not there as often. At least the last time I fished there, there weren't as many of them as often. So there we go. Now that it looks familiar. That's orange with a rib.
Those jaws of the vise are great.
Yeah, that's Florence.
I was tying along and substituting material as I was tying. So
Yeah.
I had some of this pink flash material. That's kind of nice and soft. So it's probably somewhere in between the marabou, which is super soft,
Mm-hmm.
and the crystal flash, which tends to be a little bit stiffer. The edge bright is fairly orangey in color.
Yeah.
I just pre-cut it. I don't buy it pre-cut. I just sit down,
Yeah.
cut.
I use a razor blade to cut it too.
Yeah. Then for body, I use different things. I use some of that dollar store tinsel,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice and flashy. Then diamond braid is actually a very nice material to use. It's usually very soft, and it's a woven thing out of fairly soft flashy things. So this is a rainbow diamond braid.
Yeah.
It gives off all sorts of colors.
Yeah, that would work as well.
Yeah, and then I ribbed it for extra strength, because that edge bright, in my experience, is not very strong. And then for the instead of backing, I had on my desk some of this Mirage Flashaboo,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and this is the sort of the yellowish
Mm-hmm.
version of it, and it does give, you know, in the light, depending on what angle it is at, it reflects in all sorts of ways, and it's reasonably limp as well. And so, you know, that's just one way of interpreting the pattern based on whatever materials you may have floating around.
Yeah.
And the other thing on the first pattern, so Dave was tying 6s and 8s, and I was tying 10s and 12s.
Yeah, the orange one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're fishing if you're fishing the Little Smoky for Arctic grayling, you would use the smaller hook, and which is that size, and that would be a big one. That's a 12, and because the grayling there are small, but if you're fishing for Rockies, Rocky Mountain whitefish, and you're fishing that on the Red Deer or someplace similar, they're a bigger fish, and they would straighten those little guys right out.
Mhm.
Yeah, it wasn't uncommon to catch in the Red Deer a 16-inch Rocky Mountain whitefish that weighed about 5 pounds. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I think those days are long gone.
yeah, unfortunately, yes, you're right. It was a fabulous fishery until the big flood.
And yeah, and various other things. I mean, there's been actually a sequence of floods. There was that
Yeah.
one, and then there was a bit of a recovery, and then the next one, and the next one. So the holding water is not
Not what it was. Yeah.
no. So that's part of the
You
problem.
want a fairly rocky bottom where you're fishing that stuff. I fished the smaller version of these on the Little Smoky as well, which is a pretty effective fish fly for Arctic grayling. And I think if you were fishing a bigger river, you know, some of the big ones here on the, like maybe the Cowichan would be a good place to try it. course, you can't use the 2 fly rig here, so you're stuck with a strike indicator and a dropper.
You can't even use a strike indicator if you're on the fly fishing only.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's, you have to, but it probably, you know, suitably weighted with a nice tungsten bead that
Yep.
would work if you're doing that Euro nymphing stuff.
Yeah, high
That'd
stick.
probably
We
work
called it
quite well.
we called it high sticking, right?
Hmm.
Euro nymphing.
Yeah, well, whatever you call it, that style of fishing that would lend itself
Yeah.
well to that.
I remember when we were on the Red Deer one year, and there was a lady in the fishing club who was having trouble with casting. So I ended up standing with her and showing her how you let your line and your fly go out below you, and then you sort of turn your wrist over and flick the fly line up, and then throw a little loop so that you had the indicator or the top fly on the top, and then you just kept enough line in the air to not puddle on the water, and you just follow the fly down through the drift.
Mm.
And I'm standing there while she's doing it, and I say, and just make sure you keep, but don't pull it out now, because very often as the fly starts to come off the bottom, they'll hit it right about there. And as I said there, whack, fly was taken by a grayling. So she did okay after that once she figured out how to manage. So you don't have any line on the water, you just have the indicator and a bit of leader, and it gives it a really clean drift. That's what they call Euro nymphing now, I guess, except you tend to Euro nymphing, you tend to pull the fly downstream.
Guys, I gotta go. Thanks very much.
All right, take care.
Mhm.
So like I say, next week I will not be tying because I will be singing.
Mhm.
So whether Florin is interested or not, I don't know. We'll see if anybody has an interest in tying next week.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit as kind of play. I don't know exactly. I can't.
Yeah, we might have to just give it a miss and then go the following week.
Yeah, I can't plan very well right now because
Yeah.
there's stuff where I'm kind of at the mercy of people that want to show up and do stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, at some point I'll have a cleaner schedule in front of my eyes and some ability to do a bit more planning, but right now it's a little bit of a touch and go situation.
It
Yeah.
will all go very smoothly.
So as far as I can tell,
I hope it'll go smoothly. I mean,
yeah.
the hope is that by next summer we'll be done and over with
Yeah.
it.
So so next week I say I have choir, but the November the 1st looks open at the moment.
Okay.
And then on the 8th I won't be able to tie because that's the actual concert.
That's right, yeah. No, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, I'm actually gonna get going as well.
Alrighty,
You guys have a good day
will do.
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I'll definitely not be on Tuesday
Take care.
because I have tree action Tuesday.
I will be there, I think, on Tuesday. Let me just double check.
Yeah.
I'm checking out too, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay, Dave. Well, I'm tying one more fly here as I was trying to tie along with you a few specimens of the
Yeah.
not the laser wrap, but the other one, which I didn't have. To just have a few and try it out at the next available opportunity, whenever that will be.
Yeah. Well, good luck with your renos and get your contractor all organized.
Yeah, I mean, things are reasonably organized, but it's kind of like, I think on Monday we need to meet again and discuss scheduling. On Tuesday already, so there's a crew coming to do some demolition. On Tuesday, the guy, you're still recording, by the way.
Oh, we need to stop that.
Yeah, that needs to
Let me
stop.
just do,